Welcome to the Full Audio Books Short Stories channel. The author, Sandy Ingram, holds the print, digital and audio rights.
Grace and George, undercover agents. Jorge had his eyes on Grace for weeks. He likes her the moment he saw her. She worked in accounting, and he was a computer specialist at one of the largest advertising agencies in Mexico City. Jorge, or let's call him George, was new to the company. He was not supposed to know about Grace's dating history within the company. The other guys in the IT department decided not to tell him anything, mostly because he was their new boss. The guys in the department didn't realize George was a police detective who was hired to find out what happened to Grace's boyfriend, who disappeared without a trace. George played stupid as he chased the beautiful suspect with his eyes. George knew the assignment would be difficult because he immediately had an attraction with the main suspect. He waited weeks before he spoke to her. "Hi, I'm George, the new guy in IT," he said to Grace. "Yes, I've seen you around. What exactly does IT do?" Grace asked. George realized she was the copy girl. He really didn't see much of the IT guys because they worked in the evening, updating the computers. "We're the security for all the networking system in the company," George replied. Grace smiled. She truly was beautiful. A woman of Mexican descent with long black hair and baby blue eyes. George suspected her origin because her Spanish was not natural, fluent, but not natural. Grace decided not to play with George, his job, or his assignment. She used facial recognition to identify him. She knew he was a cop. Her family members were rumored to have cartel associations, and evidently, the rumors were true. "Can we go to the employee lounge and talk? I know who you are." George froze. How had she identified him? His first thought was to wonder if he was in danger. If Grace knew he was a policeman, then who else in the company knew? Grace must have heard his thoughts. "Don't worry, I didn't tell anyone. I'll meet you in the employee lounge in 10 minutes, he said as he turned to take the elevator back downstairs to his office. George contacted the police department and explained to the captain what Grace said. He asked George to describe the woman. He then instructed him to leave the workplace and to take anything of value with him. George knew he was off the case. His heart dropped. He really liked Grace and wanted to get to know her, but he knew it would be far too dangerous. Whatever happened to her last boyfriend at the firm, someone else would have to investigate. George knew his captain was right. When you're made, then it's best to retreat, regroup, and send someone else. What George didn't realize is the captain sent 2 policemen to arrest Grace because she knew the identity of an undercover policeman. George arrived at the Mexico City main police station the same time Grace and the 2 arresting officers arrived. George was surprised to see Grace in handcuffs and asked the policeman why they arrested her. "Captain's orders," one of them flatly replied. George looked into Grace's baby blue eyes as if to say he was sorry. Grace gave a small smile to show George that she was not angry. This made George even more curious about a suspect he clearly had feelings for. George sat at his desk and waited for the police to talk to Grace. After about an hour, she came out of the interrogation room. She looked around until she found George and walked over to his desk. "No problem. Your captain will explain everything." Grace picked up George's cell phone from his desk and began punching in numbers. At that same moment, the captain yelled for George to come into his office. "Excuse me, I have to go," he said to Grace. Again, she smiled and placed his phone back on his desk. "Call me later this evening," she said. George hurried into the captain's office and shut the door. The captain was red in the face and seemed upset. "You dummy! The lady is DEA agent brought in from the United States to scope out the cartel family. It seems she is some long-lost cousin. This goes no further than this room. Understood?" George smiled. "Yes, sir. Understood." "Oh, you return to work tomorrow. You 2 work together. Undercover, of course. That doesn't mean under the sheets." George was excited. First, the woman of his dreams was an undercover DEA agent working outside of her jurisdiction, and secondly, she obviously was up for some personal time with him. George did a background check on Grace, and nothing in her records suggested that she was a DEA agent. George thought a moment and turned and asked, "What happened to the missing employee of the company?" "Oh, he found out who she was and threatened to rat her out. She had 2 U.S. agents pick him up. Right now, we don't know where he is." "How did he find out who she was? There was nothing in her online profile or the database search I did on her," George asked. "He scrolled through her phone after they were intimate, and she was asleep." George made a mental note. Never leave messages on his cell phone that could ID his real identity. How could a DEA agent not have known that? Or maybe she did. Maybe she needed to play him or trade him. Narrated by Mark Armstrong.
If you enjoy the short stories created for Sandy's YouTube channel, please subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when new audiobooks are uploaded.